Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Steele
and Giovanni.
Alright, so we are here today with a bit of a freestyle episode, because I'm just going to air it out there, because we're pretty authentic here on this podcast. Dom forgot to listen to the Kid Cudi album that dropped, so we're postponing that till Thursday to give him time to listen to it. But we're here with a bit of a freestyle, gotta fill in some time, but also we kind of have an idea of what we mainly want to talk about, as you guys probably can suspect what it is. But first, starting off, how are you two doing?
I am doing okay, but not okay in the fact that I did forget, so my apologies. Aside from that, work has been pretty Gucci flip-flops. I got to see LeBron James, I think. The Lakers played. They lost, funny enough. So that was something to the San Francisco Giants, or the Sacramento Giants. It was the Giants. They lost. It was a pretty bad loss. Nothing much else has been going on. I managed to curb my new rims on my room, so I'm going to have to fix up those in a second. Nothing else has been going on so far for the time being. The room is okay. I fixed up its new lights, so its brake lights now work properly. Because it's dangerous to drive at night with not working rear brake lights. But aside from that, nothing much else.
Dom,
what's up?
Real quickly, could you state who the Lakers lost to again?
Oh, I think it was the Sacramento Giants or something like that.
This is Sacramento King. Close enough. Close enough.
I don't play basketball, nor do I really care much about it. So I assume it was Sacramento Giants.
No, you're confusing them with the San Francisco Giants in baseball.
Oh, San Francisco. Okay. Well, I mean, tomato. It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. But they lost. Got to see LeBron.
I got to see LeBron. I think I got to see. I'm pretty sure I saw him walking by when I was.
Hashtag the mid from Akron.
Oh yeah, the mid from Akron. That was
the funniest typo ever. Because you already know, as soon as as soon as that man has a bad game, as soon as the season starts, that's all you're gonna see all over social media. Is that failed tweet he had where instead of tweeting hashtag the kid from Akron, Ohio, he put the mid from Akron. Oh, man. People are gonna have a field day with LeBron this season, just with that one screenshot alone. But how about you, Gio? How are you doing?
Do I have any news? Personally, I've been doing a lot better. Self-esteem is up because of the promise of a new job. What else? I've been like reading a lot lately. I bought this book about, it was basically like the best book that covers all the fundamentals of color. I've been reading that, and then I got this other book from the library called The Art of the Cut, which is basically like a compilation of interview questions and answers from the top editors around the world and their like philosophy when it comes to editing their movies and stuff. So it's like a lot of insight on how other people do their work and what the industry demands of them. So it's very interesting to me. What else? Oh, and I think like a week from now, maybe I'll be done with all of like the driving test. So I'll just have to wait for my license to come into the mail.
That's good to hear.
Besides that, it's pretty chill, pretty Gucci.
That's good to hear. Did you get posted yesterday?
Postage?
All the memes about apparently yesterday was a National Boyfriend Day or something like that, and everyone was making memes about not getting posted.
No, my girlfriend is not into that stuff. Like I said, I don't need that kind of validation.
Yes, very true.
How Shout out Jose though. Anytime.
What's it called? Trying to think any notable things that have happened in my life. What happened?
Nothing. I know what I'm gonna say after you're done sharing
okay.
your.
No, I mean I've been chilling so far. Obviously, got the big drop today with Overwatch in less than T-minus 45 minutes. But other than that, not gonna lie, we're just holding in there for the time being. But it's okay. Just gotta keep moving forward in life. You can't allow the little things to stop you from enjoying the everyday little blessings that you get within life, such as, the blessing of just being able to wake up and be here to record with you guys. But on to lighter notes. What were you going to say, Gio?
I think it was earlier today. Well, it depends on the time zones, I guess. But Cyberpunk 2077 is going to get a sequel. I think it's by the same gaming company that did the first one. But yeah, it was kind of unexpected, I guess, because I don't know if you guys played the first one, but it was it felt very like one-off, and I didn't like for them to announce the sequel was kind of surprising. Well, not really, because the first one was a money grab, so I guess they just want to get more money out of people with the second one. Yeah, that was announced.
Funny enough, considering what other game we're going to talk about later. But Dom, what were you saying? Because it sounded like you were going to say something, but it didn't fully come through on the mic in terms of Discord.
Oh yeah, my bad. No, I just wanted to say that I think with Cyberpunk, for a sequel for Cyberpunk 2077, I feel like it's gonna take a long time again, because I mean the first game took like 7 years, or maybe I think 8 to 9 years, ever since like development started back in like 2011, 2012. So it's gonna take some time. I also have some other news. It's been 2 years since the Kira tweet.
Oh my god!
It's been deleted off of the face of Twitter, but today marks the 2-year anniversary of the Kira tweet. I will not ever go into detail what the tweet was and what it is about. But,
so why bring it up?
It's an anniversary. It was a staple of history.
That's so irrelevant to what we're talking about.
I mean, it's news. It's news.
That is nowhere near news. The only reason it's news is because the fact that we have a meme account beefing with a rapper, but even then, it's not even that notable.
That's true.
Exactly. That is going to be very confused.
Oh, no, he already knows to expect the worst from Dom. You should have seen what this guy pulled on Saturday when we were hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
I can't go into it on the podcast, but this man made such an inappropriate joke when all my dad was trying to do was get me to show him a handshake from years ago. But oh man, this guy bringing up stuff, man. He's always bringing up stuff that you're just like, what the heck? What does that have to do with anything? But continue, Dom.
There's currently yesterday, Japan went to a state of national defense, I guess. I'm not sure what state they go, but North Korea apparently sent a missile over Japan, and it didn't hit Japan, but I mean, flying over Japan, they essentially just set up national defenses, and telling the citizens to hide in, bunker down, because I think over the past recent months, North Korea has been sending over missiles and been sending missiles into the ocean by the coast of Japan. So it's God knows what North Korea is going to be doing. We just hope we don't go into another national war. But it's getting a little scary over there, along with how would you say, with Kim Jong-un making statements as to why he makes it, but it's still not clear as to why he just sends test missiles out into the ocean. But I mean, it's kind of scary considering, if Kim Jong Un just wanted to, he could just send a missile and just annihilate people. Yeah, that's some pretty big news at the moment. I guess in lesser news, and I think maybe more controversial news, Velma from Scooby-Doo is now officially a lesbian in the new Scooby-Doo film that's coming out soon. It's
Dom, can I just say I appreciate just how wide of a coverage you have, because you just went from talking about North Korea potentially bombing or sending missiles over Japan to then now this.
It's
before that you were talking about the Cure tweet, and then weren't we originally supposed to be talking about a Cyberpunk sequel? How far have we strayed?
That's true. Also, today marks National Taco Tuesday, so go buy tacos.
Tuesday.
LeBron is happy. This is completely all over the place, but I want to, not to say that none of the stuff Dom is bringing up isn't important, because obviously, especially that North Korea, Japan stuff is a pretty scary situation for all the people involved, and we're hoping for the best, but there was, I wanted to go back to Gio's point real quick about the Cyberpunk stuff, because it is odd to see it get a sequel when, it felt like, I don't know, I almost in a sense want to say, you feel like they gave up on the first one after having all those issues, and it's like, it never seemed like, other than at the very start, they ever really wanted to correct the stuff, that was wrong with the first game.
I got some inside information. It was not really inside because it's not from the inside, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was some information about that stuff and why they didn't fix the game. Apparently, one of the shareholders of the company prevented the team from working on the game at all. So it's kind of the team wanted to, obviously, because they spent 8-9 years working on what they could consider their child, but then someone else was like, no, you can't work on it at all, you don't have permission to touch it. Yeah. Imagine how frustrating that might be.
Yeah, I can only imagine what they just kind of went through with that, because it's of how Dom mentioned how long it's been in development and all that. And it just seems so, it just seems like that's the formula nowadays, where you drop a game, and even if it's not successful or it has all these difficulties and issues with it, the solution is just to drop a sequel to the game, and instead of just really coming up with how would you put it, solutions to obviously what was wrong with the first game and trying to figure out what to do different. It's they just kind of go with the cop out of, okay, we're creating a sequel that is going to be much improved this time,
There's been a lot of discourse about Cyberpunk in my server lately, and one of the guys, it was a guy in my server and my girlfriend. They were going back and back, having a discussion about it, and apparently the reason why the game had so many bugs is because they weren't, the PS4, the soft, all of the components were not good enough to handle a game like that. So they were saying that the thing that they should have done was just hold out until the PS5 and the Xbox One were released, and release it with those consoles. Because on PS5 and PC, the game was fine. But it was just on PS4 and Xbox 360, right?
Xbox One.
The Xbox One, yeah.
The newest one is Xbox Series X.
Oh, yes, that one. Damn. I really lost, I'm out of touch with consoles.
Yeah, what's it called? I think Dom, said, a similar point when the game was originally coming back, where it was, they kept having to change it up because of how long this game's been in development, where, didn't you say, Dom, originally it was meant for, was it the PS3?
Yeah, it was meant to be for the PS3 and the Xbox 360 originally.
And then the
And then it
PS4 and
got pushed.
Xbox One came out. They had to push it back and start changing it up to fit that software. And then by the time they finally finished, it's outdated because here comes the PS5 and Xbox Series X and obviously all the upgrades that have come to PC since its inception, you know?
Yep.
And like that just kind of completely screwed over the game and screwed over the developers of it, because it's like, imagine it's like, you know, like to give a comparison, think about like with movies where it's like, you know, they movies in development for so long that by the time it comes out it's outdated because of all the advancements that have been made, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's it called? When it came to Avatar with what's the director's name? Is it James Cameron? I think apparently the story is he's had that idea since like the 90s, I think it was, but he waited all the way until the late 2000s to finally release the movie and put it fully into development, because he knew at the time he didn't have the materials and he knew technology wasn't advanced enough to create the vision he had with it. And so it's like similar, kind of like how Gio was saying, although, you know, by the time they were finishing up, there wasn't even news of any new consoles until like later into 2019, 2020, when they were finally like, hey, we're coming out with next gen. And it kind of screwed them over because everything was supposed to be bet for the last gen. But like it's at that point where you're just kind of like, I don't know, if you're coming up with a game as ambitious and as, what would you say, like, technically advanced as Cyberpunk was, then maybe you should have just waited for, you know, or maybe like at this point you think about it and you're just like, maybe as much as you want the game to sell, maybe you should have done an initial release on just PC, because PC can handle that stuff, you know, because you can constantly upgrade it, whereas there's no upgrading a console you already have, you know. There's not much you can do to upgrade a console's base form other than adding storage to it. But like, you know, you can't really improve upon much with a console until the next gen consoles are released, you know. And then at that point, that's when you start developing and tuning the game to fit those next gen console stats, you know.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good solution. And I guess there would have been some like rioting going on because of it being PC exclusive, but PS4 has exclusive games and Xbox has exclusive games, so it's kind of like you have your games, we have our games. We can't play each other's games, but we have our own stuff.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have even been completely exclusive, because like I said, they could have released it at a later date. Like, look at Spider-Man. Spider-Man finally released on a PC, and you know, people, you know, though it took a long while, it's like they finally got it because you know, well, I don't know why they ended up getting it, because I thought it was always going to be exclusive. But, you know, that's still like an example of like, yeah, look, they, you know, it can be exclusive for a while, but it doesn't rule out the chance of it being released for other consoles.
One game that I really do want to come to PC is, what's it called? Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh.
I really want to play that game, dude. It's been, people have been saying it's coming to PC since like 2020, and it's been almost 3 years at this point, and where is it?
Yeah, they take a long while. What's it called? Dom, before I transition, any final thoughts on Cyberpunk?
I mean, I just hope that the sequel does better. It's gonna take a while, God knows how many years, but maybe I would give it maybe 7 years from now. Considering they would have to make a whole new open world, but I just hope it does. I just hope they learn the lesson, but I also do hope the investors also do learn the lesson, because I mean, I'm pretty sure the devs would have wanted to delay the game back when it came out in 2020. But I mean, I just hope they could delay as much as they can, or as much as necessary as possible, so as to, you know, fix up any bugs that they might have and such, because. Yeah, it was not a clean launch. But I mean, I'm pretty sure the game is successful, along with Cyberpunk Edge Runners, to, you know, bring it back up into the spotlight. And I'm pretty sure there's been like new DLC added to the game, because I think the developers, from now on, are just beginning on post content and not like maybe some bug fixes here and there. But I think they're just working on the DLC and all that stuff. But I just hope for the best for the people. I'm pretty sure they're Poland. They're Polish. They're Poland. But yeah, nothing much else in terms of Cyberpunk news, I think.
What's
It's
it
interesting that you mentioned Edge Runners because ever since Edge Runner came out, they've seen like a huge spike of players returning. And I think for like a week straight, they had like over 1 million players playing the game. And I think that's like a good segue into like our next discussion with like the whole Edge Runners. Overwatch, it's been like a lot of years of them releasing cinematic shorts. And Joseph was going to get into that, I think.
Yeah, so funny enough, my segue was going to be, Dom talking about, or not only us talking about the development of a sequel, I was going to be like, isn't it funny how, go back 4 years, 2018, we're having this exact same discussion about a game that, as difficult, it's not really comparable because Overwatch was actually successful from the get-go, whereas Cyberpunk had all those issues where Overwatch, despite its issues at the start, still saw success, But it's crazy how back 4 years ago in 2018, we were having these exact same discussions about a sequel being made for a popular game with Overwatch and Overwatch 2. And we kind of saw the issues that occurred where it's like they were still kind of updating Overwatch. They were giving new heroes, new maps, but they weren't updating the stuff like the events as much, A lot of the development on the first one stopped for Overwatch 2, which, is finally coming out this year. And funny enough, I just learned this. Apparently the PvE of the game mode, the campaign, the sole point of Overwatch 2's existence when it first was announced, isn't coming out till next year, which is but I think it's like first quarter next year. So it's not like you have to wait a ton of time, but it's still like the main selling point of this sequel isn't even dropping with the initial game.
That's hilarious.
That's absolutely crazy. But yeah, so this was the exact same discussion we were having. We're like, man, it's crazy to think that this game's getting a sequel. Kind of like how Gio said, it very much at the time screamed cash grab, But Overwatch still went on for years, and similar to Cyberpunk, Overwatch 2 kind of spent a ton of years in development where people were like, is this even going to happen anymore? Or like, what's going on? Until finally we got the trailer for it. We got the announcement dates and all that. And we're here today where in less than half an hour it's going to be dropping. We're going to get to experience all the changes they made to it, Instead of 6v6, it's 5v5. They removed a lot of stuff. Like stuns and they reduced it to 1 tank instead of 2 because they wanted to get rid of shielding and all that. And there's so much to get into, but Gio brought it up, Edge Runners saw a lot of people getting back into Cyberpunk. We saw Arcane get people very interested in League of Legends, if I remember correctly. That's what it's tied to, Mm-hmm. And like how Gio mentioned, the one thing that kind of made Overwatch stand out from the very start was those cinematic shorts, and that's what kind of made people so excited for an Overwatch 2 with a campaign, because they were like, they keep giving us these shorts. They even had their little comics online. They were like, that were giving hints at the lore of the game, and it was very much like Apex, where each character has this extensive lore behind them and how they're all connected to the overarching story, and all that. And that's what these cinematic shorts help to display. And not only that, they were just so beautifully animated. Like, you can tell, like, they probably had a huge budget for these animations because of how top tiered they were and all that. And it just, like, I mentioned it earlier this week as we were counting down to the end of Overwatch 1 and preparing for the release of Overwatch 2. I mentioned that, there's a ton of great memories with Overwatch 1, especially the first 2-3 years of its lifespan were probably the peak of gaming for me, Just 2016 to 2018, early/late 2019-ish with Overwatch was just real fun. And the one thing I just, like, my biggest takeaway and sort of wish, if you want to say, when it comes to the release of Overwatch 2, I don't care if it recaptures the nostalgia from Overwatch 1. I don't care about really it being... Well, obviously I do care about it being a good game because I want a new game to play and I want to have fun. But, like, my biggest hope and wish is that it's successful enough and they see the success of series like Edge Runners and Arcane that they give it that full treatment of, instead of just cinematic shorts, we get a full-on sort of series for this game, because it's like with a game with lore as extensive as it is, with animations as beautiful as they are, I would seriously love to see a series that kind of ties it all together from the beginning and continuing on, going along with the game and the campaign, you know, because I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, if they're going to continuously update that campaign or it's just going to be a one-time thing, but, you know, there's a lot of interesting ways they can go with this release of this game.
I feel like that would be like a good way to kind of summarize or kind of like archive the story of Overwatch 1. Like if they make like I don't know, they go with Netflix, I guess, and they make an animated series about the story of Overwatch 1, all of the new players from that come into Overwatch 2, and old players will have that to look back to and be like, oh yeah, I remember. Because we saw like some of the story in the cinematic. It was mostly just backstory on the characters, but also like the things that were currently not. What happened in those? Because I remember they talked about like the fallout of Overwatch, and then Winston was trying to like get everyone back together, and that was like the last one that they got, right? The last one that was released, the Overwatch 2 trailer, I think it was.
Yeah. So basically,
what was happening there?
So basically, a lot of the cinematic shorts that were released were like backstories to characters, you know. And there wasn't really ones that were kind of like set in the modern time, in a sense, if you want to say. Like, I'll go on YouTube real quick, you know, and really look into this. But like, when you look at the Overwatch cinematics, it was like a lot of times they were used for, you know, introducing a new character that was added, or it was, oh my gosh, what was I going to say? Or like I said, it was like a backstory, you know, like it was Soldier 76's origin story, Tracer's origin story, what exactly was Overwatch, you know, and then kind of them trying to bring it all back together, you know, and all that. But then it's like, you look at a lot of the other ones, it's like, the story about Hanzo and Genji was kind of set modern, but it was also kind of giving you that backstory to their characters and how it's tied together. The Bastion cinematic was like a backstory to how it got to that point, you know. I'm trying to look at the other ones. Like Doomfist was kind of an explanation. May's cinematic, Reinhardt cinematic. You know, a lot of these were, or Diva. You know, they were backstories and showing how certain characters were tied together. You know, and it's like they never really had one that was like set in the current time. You know, like the Winston one kind of ends off with that initiative to really get Overwatch back together, and then the Overwatch 2 one is supposed to be like, you know, I guess the events afterwards, like when they showed the trailer for what's Overwatch 2, but kind of like how Gio's saying, there's never really a definitive storytelling, like from point A to point B of how Overwatch has started, what events happened in between, what led to the dissension of Overwatch, you know, and how did it get to all these heroes kind of going off on their own before they reunite under the Overwatch team, and exactly who they're going after, you know? Because there's still, even to this day, confusion on who are the heroes and villains. Well, there's some confusion on who are the bad guys. We know Talon is the main group, but then it's like, there's certain heroes where you're like, are you a hero? Are you a villain? Or are you like a vigilante? Like, what exactly is your role in the story? You know, like, look at Roadhog and Junkrat. They're not a part of Talon, but they're also, I don't think they're really a part of Overwatch. They're kind of their own sort of, they're kind of doing their own sort of thing, and you don't really get an explanation as to what's their tie-in to the main story, you know?
I think the only two, well, there's a few that like are for sure Talon, but besides that, that's like one of the aspects of Overwatch that always confused me, because whenever I saw a character, just by their like aesthetic, I would try to guess if they were hero or villain. Like what was her name? The sniper one.
Ana?
Widowmaker?
Or Widowmaker?
No, the other one.
Ash?
Ash?
Or Ana?
Ash, I think. Anna. I think it's Anna. I was always like kind of a 50-50 because like I heard some of her story and then like I was like completely thrown off from my I guess my prejudice against her. So yeah, having like an animated series that explains everything would be very helpful. But
Yeah.
back to like your original point of like your favorite moments from like Overwatch 1. I never played the game, but I watched a lot of Tim the Tan Man play Overwatch like during its peak. And one of the funniest things I've ever seen is when he would like rage at Roadhog and his hook. Because I remember this one time he got hooked through a bus. Like his character model went underneath a bus, and like for the next 10 minutes he was just what was the guy's name? Jeff, the director of Overwatch.
Oh yeah, Jeff Kaplan.
Yeah, he was literally just raging at Jeff for 10 minutes. It was hilarious.
Well, what do you think, Tom?
I would say I hope they do clear up with the storyline. I do see the game overall story maybe clearing up any things that they might have confused in terms of who's the villain and who's the hero, as you mentioned. But I have a feeling they're not going to do it again. Maybe they might explain it within the PVE of the game. But I just have a feeling they're just not going to give you a clear standpoint as to whose is the main, I guess, antagonist and who's like maybe the main protagonist. Because Jack, in your eyes, do you think there is like a main protag? Do you think there's like the one main character? Because I was thinking maybe it might be Tracer because she's the cover art.
She's
person.
the poster girl for Overwatch, but like at the same time, not really. Because I mean, their tagline is "anyone can be a hero," so it's supposed to be just the focus on like Overwatch as a group. But again, yeah, like they haven't really been good. Like they're really good at their storytelling, but not like at overarching storytelling in a sense, like they were really good at telling the backstories to a lot of these characters, giving them such unique personalities and characteristics and backstory and development especially. But they really struggled to figure out how to tie all of the stories together in a sense, especially to kind of focus on the whole Overwatch versus Talon, essentially versus the world type thing. Because remember, Overwatch was shut down after, a couple of their heroes went rogue. And then it's supposed to be kind of like similar to the whole Avengers Civil War thing, where it's like they don't think essentially heroes should be the ones to how would you say, to be like in control in a sense, like they got to be regulated by a government because of what happened with Talon. And yet Talon's out here running, and now, because like you remember in that very first cinematic, Echo tells Winston, that like it's against the law for him to like essentially reform Overwatch, that it's gonna make them be hunted down just as much as Talon for recreating Overwatch and basically going through with that whole initiative of Overwatch again,
Right.
And that's what happens. He goes against it. So it's like, I want to see them explore that story more, where it's just like, that's why I think they really should start investing in this series. Because not only would a series get people invested in the actual game, especially once that campaign drops, that'll get a ton of people to play it. But, it'll help kind of people understand the game more,
Yeah. I mean, I just hope they pull it off. If they don't pull it off, I think. I mean, to the people who just play the multiplayer and don't really care about the story, I'm pretty sure they're just fine with it. But how would you say? I just hope they do clear things up, and I hope they throw in new cinematics, because I'm pretty sure there's already new cinematics for the new heroes. But I just hope they throw in even more cinematics, because it's dude, the amount of time I bet it takes to make these like 3D animations, it's perfect. It's so clean, it's so clear. The stories are always nice. The soundtracks as well are always beautiful. But I just hope they throw in more, because I'm pretty sure there's already like at least one cinematic for the majority of the heroes. But I'm pretty sure some don't even have cinematic. Does Arisa even have cinematic?
I think she got like the short one that like kind of explains how Arisa was created and how like what kind of, again, what ties her into the story necessarily, but like not like a full-on cinema, because they kind of differed between two different styles. It was the full-on cinematic style that we saw like Reinhardt and May, Cassidy and Ash get, but then they kind of did that short like comic book style one, like that's the one we got for Doomfist. That's the one we got for I think we got both for Sombra, if I remember correctly. Like Sombra. I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't know if people like disagree or whatnot, but like Sombra was probably the greatest character introduction they ever did with an Overwatch hero. Like all the other ones would get like a cinematic, whether it was like the comic style or a full-on cinematic and all that. But you remember, Dom, when they were hyping up the drop for Sombra with all the different clues, when she hacked, was it BlizzCon and all that, That was one hero that they went full-on in with dropping, and all that. And like, they never kind of got to that peak ever again when it came to dropping a hero,
True.
Like, they really gave her the A-tier treatment. And I'm just kind of hoping that while it probably takes a lot more investment of time and money, I hope that's how they start hyping up these different heroes and maps as well. I know you're probably like, how would you hype up a map? You can hype up a map by showing how much of an importance it has to the story,
True.
Like, it's a whole nother thing, but like I saw this really good video on TikTok. I forget the guy's name, but he was basically talking about the She-Hulk series, and he was saying that that like his criticisms and like the stuff to back it up of the show was that it does too much telling rather than showing, Like,
yeah,
I think
that is true.
Like, you guys know the common phrase, especially when it comes to forms of media, like anime, manga, video game storytelling, is always show, don't tell. If you want us to believe that a character has been through a lot, don't tell us, show us what they've been through. Like, that was kind of his whole thing. He was saying, he's like, I don't dislike the She-Hulk show, but they tell us that they tell us about her struggles and how she's had to go through all this stuff in comparison to Bruce, but it's hard believing it because all that happens is her telling us, but they're not showing us the struggles. Like, she talks about how all her life she's had to maintain her cool, and Bruce doesn't know anything about that, but like, we've seen Bruce have to go through those struggles, but they're just constantly telling us about She-Hulks rather than showing us. And that's kind of what I want the main takeaway for Overwatch 2 to be, is when you're coming to this storytelling, when you want us to get hyped and want us to get investment into this game, do it through showing us and not telling us about how hyped we have to be. Don't do these presentations where you're going to be like, oh yeah, this new character that we have in development is going to be, game breaking and all this, or, like all this stuff where it's like, don't, like, another comparison I can give is, whenever we're watching wrestling, the big thing for Mr. Solis, especially when it comes to like the commentary team, is like, let's say you watched a really good match, you don't want obviously the commentators being like, oh, that was an instant classic, because it's like, you guys work for the company, of course you're gonna hype it up, like, don't tell us. It's up to the fans to decide whether something was like an instant classic. And it's similar here, where it's like, don't tell us all this stuff, show us through actually putting in the effort in the game, because I know it seems kind of weird to especially a lot of the listening audience, but like, especially with Dom and I, because we played this game since it dropped, we know what it was like when halfway through this game's lifespan, it's no offense to the development team, it's not to say that they didn't work hard, but like, you can tell there's a clear point in Overwatch's lifespan where they gave up because they wanted to develop Overwatch 2 and all this. And it's like, show us that you truly care and want us to get invested in this game. Show us and prove to us that that's why you stopped halfway through the original Overwatch. Like, instead of focusing on improving the first Overwatch, show us why you thought it was the best idea to stop halfway through to focus on this game, you know. Prove to us that you truly are invested in the long run this time, you know. Because, you know, it's not to fault anyone or try and say that, like, you know, it's not like to try and paint them in a bad light, although Blizzard itself has painted itself in a bad light, company wise. But you know, when they stopped to develop Overwatch 2, like Gio said at the start, with the whole Cyberpunk sequel, it's like everyone saw it as a cash grab. They were like, oh, they just see how successful Overwatch 1 is, and they know a sequel will do just as good or even better, you know. But so it's like, show us that it isn't just a cash grab at this point. Show us your investment and show us you're here for the long run with this game.
And I like
continue.
Like with Overwatch 2, like I haven't been following the news as much as you have, Jack, but like from what you've told me, they're like setting themselves apart from like other developers that like create sequels, because they're like making a change, but then they're also explaining why they made that change and how they see it benefiting the game, you know, with the whole like the loot boxes and everything like that. Because if you look at other games, it was not really the same. But it's like, it's still applicable, because when you see like a game like Call of Duty, it just kind of, like, their whole marketing tactic is nostalgia. Oh, we're bringing back all of the old maps from like the original Call of Duty games. We're bringing all these guns and all these characters that you grew up playing, and that's it. And then when they make changes to the game, it's like, oh yeah, we're changing this. Have fun playing the game. But with Overwatch, it's kind of like it feels like they're like a little bit more like involved in making it like just right for the consumer.
And I definitely feel that with how engaged they've been with the community, you know. Like, literally look at what happened where we were like, when it was first announced about the changes with cosmetics and the battle pass and heroes being locked behind stuff and everyone was complaining. Look at how quickly Blizzard got on top of that to explain, or the Overwatch team got on top of that to explain the changes, you know. Whereas, Dom, you remember, it would take like months just to get a patch back in like the later years of Overwatch. When a character was broken and people were complaining about it, it would take months until the next update where they finally changed something, you know. Because they were focused on Overwatch 2. And so that's just my big thing. Just show us that you really care and show us that we have a reason to get invested in this game. And so far, they've shown that we should care and that we should trust them with this, you know. Especially, it's like a lot of people were iffy on the cosmetic stuff, but it makes sense. Would you rather just be able to be like, here's my money so I can be guaranteed to have this skin, rather than, you know, like, this is the way I can put it to people. A legendary skin drops for the Halloween event. Would you rather spend $10 right there to get the currency you need to buy it? Or would you rather be like, hey, Blizzard, here's $100 for me to buy loot boxes to just hope for the chance to even get that skin, you know? It's an obvious improvement, but I don't know why people just kind of were iffy on it. But it's like, and it's especially a proven method because it works for Apex, it works for Fortnite especially, you know? So, I don't know.
I think people don't like it because it's kind of like the exclusivity of having a skin that's rare. Like, I have this skin because I was lucky enough to get it in the loot box. But now that everyone's going to have it, it kind of like takes away from that. But overall, it's like the best thing they could have done for the game. Because, I don't know, like that, like, I guess that gambling aspect of it is not healthy for any game.
Yeah, most definitely. But with 30 seconds remaining, final words I want to say is, Thursday, we'll see y'all hopefully, if no other schedule change happen, we'll see you to cover both Kid Cudi's album and show together in a dual review, and then we'll catch y'all hopefully either next Monday or Tuesday, depending again on schedule, where we're going to give a full, in-depth review of Overwatch 2 after a full week of playing it. But with that being said, I've been Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo.
And Winston.
Alright, and we'll catch you on the next episode.